Intermediate lessons involve skiers who have been skiing on their own or have taken a lesson and then been out skiing with friends and family. They're trying in most cases towards getting out of their wedge and trying to ski a little bit more parallel. But as we see with both of the skiers in the picture right now, they tend to have a very wide wedge and be leaning back using the tail of their skis. When we're looking at how they're actually going to make their turns, we'll see that they're using their shoulders and rotating their way and then leaning inside the turns as they're coming through the turns. And we can see this in both directions as they're turning their shoulders and then leaning inside the turn to make it happen. And this is very common. You'll see it. It looks a little differently as you get different size kids in different outfits, but really this very similar things moving in terms of how they're taking those shoulders and really twisting them to get them to go through the turns. And a lot of this starts when the parents, even if they're never in a lesson, the parents will take them out skiing. And as we can see, this dad with the two kids here, they're skiing down the hill, and of course they're just enjoying the speed, but they use these big wide stances where they're back on the heel, and at some point the kids will have problems either skiing on steeper terrain with the parents, or they'll want them to actually start to have more control or to start making turns, and that's when we'll often see kids like this coming into a lesson. The adults will also display similar things, even if they're in somewhat of a better stance. We'll notice this skier turning real hard with the shoulders as they're going through the turn, and then really hard we'll see the shoulders turning to come into this next turn here. And again, not as far back and not using as big and wide of a wedge, but we're seeing the shoulders come into play here. And let's look at one more example of another skier who is trying to make the turns and probably would like to be able to ski with a little bit more confidence, a little bit more control, and also seeing if they can try to ski with those skis a little bit more parallel and matched up. But we see that same issue of taking the shoulders and turning them in the direction that he wants to turn to get things to happen. So we want to start off in intermediate lessons to get back to the problem of getting them in a better position on their skis. So we want to work on the athletic stance. We can do that with them statically, having them practice the position of just putting their hands out and bouncing up and down a little bit on their toes. And the real important thing to this is feeling the connection, that not just can they feel the chest over the toes, but they feel the weight on the toes. And then we try to put that in motion so that as they're coming down the hill again, we'll have them just do some bouncing like a ball, and again feeling the chest over the toes, but really building that connection in the brain of feeling like they have that weight right on the toes. We want to build the sensations right from the ground up. Then we can go ahead and have them, once we have them in a little better stance, get the wedge smaller, add some speed, and then they can make these very slight little turns so that they're working with the feet, so that they're either pointing their toes, or if it works better for them, to push on their toe. So they make this very slight little turn. They'll go straight, slight little turn. And what they're doing here is they're starting to feel the sensation of either turning their feet or pushing from toe to toe to generate the turning action, rather than using their shoulders to make everything happen. We can also think about these big five elements to try to get people so they're matching their skis so they're parallel. And it really goes back to things we've already been talking about. We have to get them on a gentle slope, make sure that they're in an athletic stance. get out of that big wide wedge, and then start adding some speed so that they're reducing the friction, they're building up their momentum as they go faster. So it's going to make the turning much easier, and it will help with the matching, and it'll help start the next turn. And then finally make sure that we don't turn real far when we start our turn. So let's see what that looks like when we're in action. We're on this gentle slope. We have our athletic stance with our hands out in front, chest over the toes. We're standing right on our toes as we get some speed, 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 speed. Now when we make a very slight little turn, we'll start to notice that the skis want to start coming together almost by themselves, and by the end here we can see that the skis have come together and have started to match up and become parallel. We will see this right away in first lessons oftentimes with students, and then as they go too steep, too fast, they start leaning back and rotating the shoulders. So that's why it's very important that we don't get to too much hill too fast until they really have their position and they're turning down well. A little drill they can use is starting off again always in their good athletic position, hands out in front, chest over the toes, weight on the toes, get some speed going, and then as they go ahead to make their turn, they'll just take their hand and reach down and touch their knee as they're making the turn. As they do that, it transfers all the weight over to that foot, and of course with the forces will help start driving that ski together even if they're not actively matching the inside ski. The skis will have that tendency to match up. So again, if they're going with enough speed as they reach over and touch that hand towards that knee, they'll find that a lot of times the matching will just start to happen without even having to think about it a great deal. Another little exercise that they can try is putting the hand almost as if it's on the outside of their pocket, and they'll slide it down towards their knee. So as they're making the turn, they think slide the hand towards the knee, and again it's putting the weight progressively over there on that outside ski, and the matching tends to start to happen very naturally at this point. So again, it's the hand to the knee, or the hand to the pocket, sliding towards the knee, and we'll see that it ends up making it easier for them to get the matching to occur. If this whole idea of using the smaller wedge with some speed and spontaneously having matching start to occur, if they're struggling with this, we can do a much more deliberate alternative or option for them. And to do the more deliberate approach, if we were to just be standing so that they were just standing statically on the side of the hill with the skis in a little bit of a wedge, we could have them reach over with their downhill hand and touch their hand to their knee. That's going to put all the hand, in this case it'll be on the left knee, and then that way it's easy for them to try turning and sliding that uphill ski over so that it'll match. So if that were the case where we were just static here, you can see that if all the weight's on that downhill or that left ski, then they can easily start turning and actively trying to match that ski in a much more deliberate manner. And then what we would do with this is start off with a flat traverse and have them try to do that, and then we would start to make it steeper and steeper, and this is called a fan exercise until they're comfortable getting the weight on that outside ski and matching up the inside ski. Another thing that we can work with people that will tremendously help with the matching is again getting them started in a good athletic position, not too large of a wedge, and have the speed going, but this time have them focus on every time they finish a turn trying to step into the new turn on what will be the outside ski. So in this case what we'll be looking at is the new outside ski will be the left ski for the skier in this instance, And so the focus is we finish the turn and then step on the other ski and step into the new turn. We finish that ski and now this time step into the new turn. And every time you finish the turn, it's step into the new turn on what will be that outside ski. So it's just like walking. Every time they're going to start a turn, they're going to transfer the weight and step into the new turn. And then they can take that early weight transfer and feel that as they're stepping into the new turn, that they can have a slight sense of an upward motion to start the turn and then a slight down to finish. And this kind of awareness or sense of slight up and down motion helps with their rhythm and their timing. It will smooth things out. It will help with the matching. And things will really start to smoothen out. As they're working. So again, the two elements that can be very helpful is focusing in that early weight transfer and some smooth up to start, down to finish. We can then talk a little bit about pole touching with them, and here we'll have them concentrate on using the wrist to just swing the pole out and touch it. It would be the left pole for a left turn or the right pole for a right turn. If that seems too confusing for them, they can always think the pole that is closer towards the bottom of the hill. They're always going to touch the downhill pole. And then we can have them put that in motion, see if they can try it out. So it'll be touch, match, and turn. As we see the skier come across the hill here, the pole will touch the pole. We'll see the matching happen, and then they make the finishing of the turn. So it's swing, match, and turn. Swing out the pole, make that touch. See the matching happen before the skis are in the fall line, and then they'll finish up the turn. And at this point, we've got them in a little bit better position. They've got the start of their turn so that their skis are starting to match up much earlier, if not almost all parallel at this point. And if we are still looking at issues, we can always go ahead and clean up the finish or the bottom part of the turn. In this case, we're really looking at what's happening from the point where the skis are halfway through the turn or in the fall line until they are across the hill. And these we can do the uphill Christie drills or exercises, and this will help with the tipping to the outside of the turn and the flexing of the ankle. We can start to put those two things together for the flexing and the tipping drill, and the uphill Christie is really the heart of the exercises that we'll work on as we get into more of the advanced type lessons. So that's how we can wrap up and go from a defensive wide wedge, turning the shoulders, getting them to stand in a better position, starting to use their feet, and getting them tipping a little bit more outside rather than banking on the inside.